Children with autism often exhibit impairments in social, language, and communication skills. They often have a poor theory of mind and require social interactions that often come naturally to typically developing peers to be intentionally taught. This is why social stories can be so helpful in teaching students with autism social interactions. Social stories help to teach through modeling, prompting, and reinforcing interactions that they may encounter with peers and/or adults. Social stories are a proven evidence-based practice for ages 3 to 5 in the areas of social communication, joint attention, behavior, play, adaptive, and academic skills. For ages 6 to 11, all of the above areas as well as school readiness are also included. For ages 12 to 14 in social and behavior, and for ages 15 to 22 in behavior. In one article, Krantz and McClanahan examined the use of social scripts on students with minimal reading skills. After the intervention was introduced, the participants used both scripted and unscripted statements and generalized new skills to different adults and to new activities. Steps to implement a social narrative. These steps are found from the Ohio Center for Autism and Low Incidence on the Autism Internet modules. Step 1 is to identify the social situation for intervention. This step should take into consideration the student's IEP, goals, utilizing the team members, family members, and the student if appropriate. Teachers or practitioners should select a social behavior for change, preferably one that results in positive social interactions or a safer environment, or both. In Aaron's case for this project, I selected Aaron's behavior on the bus to school. His bus driver repeatedly told me that Aaron would yell out, refuse requests, or even attempt to unbuckle his seatbelt and stand in his seat. This is an obvious safety hazard as well as socially unacceptable behavior. Step 2 is to define the target behavior or skill. The teacher or practitioner clearly defines the target behavior or skill so that it is observable and measurable. The important part of this step is to make sure that the skill is observable and measurable. The goal, Aaron will act appropriately on the bus, would not be beneficial because acting appropriate could be defined differently by different people with different perspectives. For Aaron, the target behaviors would be, Aaron will wait to remove his seatbelt until the bus aide tells him to do so 8 out of 8 rides. And Aaron will speak to the bus driver and bus aides without yelling or refusals on 5 out of 8 bus rides. Step 3 of the social story intervention would be collecting baseline data. Teachers or practitioners first determine the type of data to be collected. You must also collect baseline data on at least 3 occasions to identify the baseline skills of the learner before beginning the intervention. In Aaron's case, I asked for assistance from the bus driver and the bus aide to take frequency data on first, how often Aaron removed his seatbelt before being told to do so, and second, how often Aaron yelled out or refused on the bus ride. For this, I made a tally sheet for each day that we would be collecting data, and I asked them to simply tally each time that the instance occurred. I then collected them at each drop-off time. Step 4 is writing the social narrative. This should be written at the level that is appropriate for the learner's age and developmental level. The story should consistently use first or second person perspective depending on the learner. For Aaron's case, I wrote his social story in second person. Step 5 is choosing the appropriate length of the story. Teachers should select a number of sentences per page that are appropriate for the learner, as well as the level of reading that the learner is on so that they can focus on the concept. If appropriate, the learner should help to construct the sentences and help make the story more meaningful to them. For Aaron's story, I chose to write it without Aaron's help, but he is at a pre-reading level and has begun decoding words. I knew that after the story was read to him once or twice that he would then use the picture clues and be able to read it on his own. Step 6 is to include photos, pictures, icons, or handwritten drawings. The teacher should use visuals that are appropriate for the learner. If possible, it is best to use pictures with the students, other peers, or drawings made by the student. In Aaron's story, I had taken pictures of Aaron, his bus driver, his bus aide before creating his book. This is Aaron's book, Riding the Bus. We are going to ride the bus. The bus will take me to school. The bus can be really fun. When I ride the bus, I have to wear my seatbelt so that I am safe. When I see Mr. Dan, I can say, "Hi, Mr. Dan, it's good to see you." Mr. Dan is happy when I am respectful. When I see Miss Martha, I can say, "Hi, Miss Martha, it's good to see you." Miss Martha is happy when I am respectful. When I get to school, I can take off my seatbelt after Miss Martha tells me to unbuckle. Now I can go to school and see my friends. Our book is called Riding the Bus. And you know whose bus that is? No, that's you! It says, we are going to ride the bus. The bus will take me to school. The bus can be really fun. And that's Aaron's bus. Who is that? That's Aaron. It says, when I ride the bus, I have to wear my seatbelt so that I am safe. Do you have your seatbelt on?
Yeah.
Are you happy in this picture?
Oh, yeah.
You are.
Hey, look, it's him.
Who is that?
It's him.
It's Mr. Dan. When I see Mr. Dan, I can say, "Hi, Mr. Dan. It's good to see you." Can you practice that? Say, "Hi, Mr. Dan.
Hi, Mr. Dan.
It's good to see you."
It's good to see you.
Mr. Dan is happy when I am respectful. Is he happy there?
Oh, yeah.
Aaron has his seatbelt on, so he's happy. Who's that?
It's him.
It's Miss Martha.
Hey, Mom, Dad.
When I see Miss Martha, I can say, "Hi, Miss Martha. It's good to see you." Can you practice? Say, "Hi, Miss Martha.
Hi, Martha.
It's good to see you."
It's good to see you.
Miss Martha is happy when I am respectful. Does she look happy? Yeah. Okay. When it's Aaron again. When I get to school, I can take off my seatbelt, and after Miss Martha tells me to unbuckle it, now I can go to school and see my friends.
Yes.
Did you get to unbuckle when you got to school? And then it's over. Aaron, will you take this home and read it with Mom before you get on the bus? All right, step 8 would be monitoring learner progress. Teachers and practitioners now collect data for a minimum of 2 weeks to measure the effectiveness of the intervention. This data collection can occur by teachers, parents, or anyone observing the student. During this time, I took data sheets each day from Aaron's bus driver and then created an Excel sheet to track the data and make a graph to examine later. Step 9 is reviewing the data and modifying the narrative if necessary. After at least 2 weeks of data has been collected, the teacher, practitioner, and team will then decide if the data shows the intervention has been effective, and then can be faded out if the intervention needs to be modified. Maybe the time of day isn't working or needs to be changed. These modifications will depend on what the data shows. If adaptations are required, you must then collect data again and then reassess. For Aaron, after seeing the data, I have decided that the intervention has been effective, so I will begin to fade the readings out on his social story. Step 10 is to generalize and the maintenance of the learner's behavior on skill. Aaron will still keep his book in his backpack to access on the bus ride whenever he chooses to read it. Aaron's mother will begin fading her readings with him to just Mondays and Thursdays, and then just Mondays, then not at all if the behaviors do not reappear. Here's the data that I collected on Aaron's behavior in the Excel sheet. So the blue line is how many times he stood up on the bus, and that did decrease down to 0. The orange line is how many times he either yelled out or refused for the bus drivers, and that did go down quite a bit, up and then back down to 0. So that's why we want to just fade it out slowly, and here is the baseline data and the line for that. Thank you.